Hey everyone, this is an interview with Maria Brophy. She sold millions in art, and today we're going to talk about how you can get collectors and keep them for life. So stay tuned, this is an amazing interview. Make sure to make notes because you're going to learn so many things from this interview. So let's get into it.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Art Money Success Podcast. I'm your hostess, Maria Brophy, and today we're going to talk about how to get art collectors and keep them for life. Now, Drew and I have sold over $3 million in Drew Brophy's artwork paintings. And we did this over the course of 20 years. And we learned a few things. And one is it's so much easier to sell art to someone who is already connected to you and who has already bought from you than it is to find a new buyer. So here's what I'm going to do today. I am going to, first of all, I'm doing this live. So everybody that's here listening right now, you are welcome to ask questions in the comments. And by the way, while you're at your keyboard, let me know in the comments right now where you are in the world right now. Okay, and the next thing is I'm bringing on one of my favorite guests, my good friend Oliver Hoyas, who's joining us from Sofia, Bulgaria. And I'm going to bring him on in just a minute. But I love having Oliver on because we both sell a lot of art and we do it from two totally different perspectives. I'm old school because I'm a lot older than him, and he's new school. Has several art collectors who have bought between $20,000 and $40,000 in art from him. And Oliver doesn't even have a website. And so this is why I love to exchange notes with him. And how we're going to do this today is we are going to just have a conversation, and you all are going to be flies on the wall. You get to listen in as Oliver and I exchange notes on how we have our own way of getting art collectors and keeping them. So, with that, I'm going to bring Oliver on right now. Hi, Oliver.
Hello. Great to be here. Excited to talk about one of my favorite topics. Yeah.
I know you and I love talking about this. Well,
Yeah.
because we both love to sell art. We both love to build things. And
Mhm.
the other thing you and I both love to do is we love to share and teach what we've learned. And most artists are not willing to do that, and that's fine. There's no shame with that. But I get a lot of joy in helping other people. So, and I know you do too, because you give so much of your information away, and I love that. So,
Thank
that being said, do you want to just give like a 2-minute background on who you are and how you got into selling your art and becoming a full-time artist? Just a quick overview for the new people here.
Yeah, so yeah, hi everyone. My name is Oliver. I sold art since I think I started full time in 2020. And I've tried selling art for a long time, but it never really worked. I really struggled, especially also with the information, how to do it. I was like very confused. I always wanted to do it, but I didn't take the big step because I didn't believe it's possible. But in 2020, something shifted in my mind. Like I started really owning that I'm an artist and I became proud of it. And then I started just doing whatever it takes, figuring out how it works, especially selling online. That was for me very clear. I want to sell art online. I want to keep it simple because I want to kind of like I don't want this to consume my whole life. I want to sell art, paint art, like do what I love and just travel and kind of, have this amazing lifestyle. And so, yeah, I figured out quite a lot of things. Then, I had a 30,000 month in 2020, sold a painting for 24,000. Uh, and this is actually, this person bought more and more art, right? So she's one of my art collectors now. Bought one for 24K and keeps coming back for more. So I have like several people that just keep coming back for more. Also in May, I sold to one art collector two paintings for 10,700 USD total, just by literally reaching out to her, having a quick conversation. So no,
Well,
no complicated strategy. Yeah.
we're going to dig into that a little deeper, and
Yeah.
we did dig into that last time. And
Hmm.
last time you and I did this, and when we dug into it, one of the nuggets that came up was having a few collectors that you can go to when you want to sell art, or when, like in my case with Drew, every now and again we have a dry spell, right? Like art is what
Hmm.
supports our family, pays our mortgage. We also have an art gallery, and we have to sell art to be able to pay the rent. And we live in Southern California. We have very high overhead. Drew and I have to sell a minimum. All right, this number, I'm sharing this number here. Hold on to your hats. We need to bring in a minimum of 30,000 a month just to cover all our expenses and pay ourselves, to pay everything. California is very expensive. And and we've got an art gallery where we pay rent, and then we have a mortgage, and just the food. I mean, heck. Anyway, I won't get into all that, but it's expensive to live here. And so our we have to bring in a minimum of 30,000 a month. And I have to say, we figured out how to keep the money rolling in fairly well with online advertising of sales of Drew's art prints and so forth. And there are times we have dry spells and we're like, whoa, wait a minute. We need to make a sale. And then you know what we do? We reach out to existing collectors, fans, and people who have bought in the past. And that works better than anything. So
Hmm.
that's why this is so important. And I want to say something that you said to me earlier, Oliver, before we came on here. And you said, all you need as an artist is just a few loyal art collectors to be able to do this. So, why don't I bounce the ball back to you and you talk a little bit about that? And then we'll go into how to get those loyal art collectors. But do you mind expanding upon
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, if you think of you, if you you need to run the numbers, right? You need to figure out how much do you need per month. So, like Maria knows her number, and then you can focus on it. That's the first thing. Most artists, they don't even know their number. Like, how much do they actually need to bring in from their art to be a full-time artist, right? And most of us, we start kind of small, right? We don't wanna. I mean, it depends who you are. Like some of us, we are like big dreamers and we pick a super big number already. But most maybe feel a bit more comfortable with a smaller number, like a number that will be able where you're able to live from it and not starve. Let's say, right? You have extra money as well, so you live actually pretty well. Let's just say for everyone the number is different, but let's say it's 5,000, right?
You
Because I
read
think
my
that's
mind. That's exactly.
yeah.
I literally wrote that down on my piece of paper, because that's the average dollar amount that most artists that I work with in our mastermind tell me they need to make or do make. Yes. So continue. Sorry.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it's also a number that seems doable, right? For many, like 10,000 seems already super high, and then you get stressed out. So, yeah, 5,000 is a good number. So, if you, again, there are so many ways, right? That's also why I love talking to Maria, because I have like my own way. I just kept it simple social media, but Maria has so many ways of how to get to that number, right? Because there are really a lot of different ways to do that. But let's say you just focus on art collectors and they spend, let's just say they spend 5,000, yeah, per, what would be realistic, let's say? Like, let's say you have 10 art collectors, okay? And maybe each of them spends, or let's say 12 for the sake of making sense with the number. 12 art
Okay.
collectors, they spend 5,000 each, and there would be like 60,000 per year, right? Just like an example, and that's too. It for many might seem high, but it could also be maybe they buy two pieces for 2.5, or the numbers could vary. But for me, they spend quite a lot, right? These are collectors that keep coming back, and these are my best art collectors because they know my prices and they know what they need to pay to have another artwork, right? Yeah.
But
Did you want to say something? Yeah.
they don't always come back. It's more like you have to bring them back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and if I could jump in with just an example, there's a local guy here where I live in San Clemente, California, where I remember the first time I met him. His name's Tim, and he brought his young teenage son. This was like 12 years ago. And Drew and I, we were in a very small space in an area of town that everybody calls the surf ghetto because you're surrounded by all the surfboard factories. And that was where our old painting studio was. And Tim came to a little event that we had where we invited the public to come, and we had a bunch of Drew's old paintings that we had released for sale. And we had them priced very low because back then that was what we had to do. Um, I think that was after the crash of 2009. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Tim came and he bought one painting. And I remember the painting that he bought, and I hate to say it, it was one of my least favorite paintings that Drew ever did, but he loved this painting. So he bought it. When he bought it, when anybody buys anything, I get their email, their phone number, and their address. Even if I don't need their address, I get it. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I get all their contact info, and I have a spreadsheet, and their name goes on the spreadsheet with their phone number, email, address, and what they bought and when they bought it.
Mm-hmm.
That spreadsheet is invaluable because then I got a feel for what Tim liked, what kind of art Drew did that he liked, and his budget, right? Tim's not the kind of guy that's going to spend $20,000 on a painting. At least he wasn't back then. Back then, his limit was like $800.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over the years, whenever we would have a painting that we were going to release, or I would pull an old painting out that wasn't selling, or that we had forgotten about, it was like in the warehouse, I would reach out to Tim and I'd say, "Hey, we have this painting we think you'll love," because I already knew what he liked because I had asked him, right? Now, he didn't always buy, but I would say 2 out of the 4 times I would ask him, he would buy. And because he's local, I would deliver to his house, which he loved. And he's become a friend over the years. Now, all these years later, his income is a lot higher than it used to be. He doesn't have kids at home anymore, so he's got a lot more income. And now, the last painting he bought from us, it was like $8,000. That was a huge jump from what he had first bought at $800 many, many years ago.
Mm. Yeah. How can we already go into question? Because now I'm curious, like how did you explain that that your prices are more expensive?
Oh, well, we raise Drew's prices every year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only exception to that was after the big crash of 2008, we went through several years of being very hungry because I mean, that's a whole nother hour we could talk about how we survived that and what the struggles were. So that was the exception. But since then, since the economy recovered, even now, people say we're in an economic collapse and blah, blah, blah. I raised Drew's prices again back in January. He doesn't take a painting commission. Really, his painting commissions start at $15,000 now. They start
Mm-hmm.
at 15,000. Now, we'll make a few exceptions to that depending on different things, but in general, 15,000. And as a matter of fact, even though we have a commercial client that we've done work with since 2016, hadn't worked with them for 5 years. They just came back and commissioned a few more pieces, and I'm super excited. We got a $75,000 deal
Wow.
with that. And so the point of it is that we gradually raise the prices. So you raise your prices as you get better at your craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a new artist or not very good at what you do and raise your prices. So be realistic about that. But, Drew's been an artist his entire life. He's 50, how old is he? 54 years old. It's all he's ever done since he was a teenager is create art, even though he's
Mm-hmm.
self-taught, never had any instruction professionally. It's all he's ever done. So he still keeps getting better and better. His art is better today than it was 5 years ago, remarkably better, like in 5 years. And so that happens for all artists that keep creating art. The other thing is if the demand of your art starts to go up, which is the idea, right? As you get better at marketing, as you build your collector base, you will sell more. That's your demand going up. And as
Mm-hmm.
your demand goes up, you can raise your prices. Now, don't raise your prices if you've only sold one piece of art. Don't go from 800 to 8,000. Like that's not unless you've got some magic wand and there's some incredible opportunity. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, but really you have to do it gradually, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And by
Yeah, I
the way, I
think.
want to I want to just say thank you everybody who's on here. We have a lot of our Art Money Success Mastermind members on here. And for those of you who don't know, Oliver and I are co-founders of the Art Money Success Mastermind. And I love when our members show up because they ask the best questions and they leave the best comments because they are in our inner circle and they are highly motivated to grow. And so I just want to say hi to Renee and Andrew and Paula and Sheena and Kathy and Jillian in Myrtle Beach, who, by the way, I got to hang out with in live person last week. Thanks for meeting me at the smoothie shop, ladies. Yeah, we've got a lot of great people on here. Jill, and I mean, I know almost everybody on here, Rusty and Brett and Got Style Designs. And I want to welcome you all and also ask you to ask questions in the comments. No question is stupid. Isn't that what your teacher used to say? No question is a dumb question. Every question is valid. I want to hear questions.
Yeah.
All right, Oliver, where were we?
Prices, raising the
Price.
prices step by step. But yeah, okay, most do it step by step, right? Not from 800 to 8,000, but actually gradually as they get better and probably also build the confidence.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Confidence.
yeah.
Exactly. You have to, and confidence is something you have to build. Some people could do it overnight. Some people it takes a long time. I've been working on my confidence my whole life. I still haven't mastered it. I realized this morning I put this outfit on and I've got these like white leggings on. And Drew looked at me and he said, "All right, are you teaching are you leading a live workshop today or are you going to the gym?" And you know what I heard him say? I heard him say, why are you wearing those leggings? That looks too casual." Even though he didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I said, "What? You don't like what I'm wearing?" And he goes, "How did you get that out of what I just said?" And I said, another insecurity I have. This is interesting. Like when you start becoming more aware of your thought process and how you respond to people, you really can start laughing at yourself and realizing that our brains do all kinds of silly things to us. And when it comes to confidence, either in how you look or what your art looks like or how talented you are, we all could use a little more work on that. But the more confidence we have, the more art we can sell because it comes through in our conversations and our actions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, for me, is I also started like actually I have a collector. The first painting she bought, and she negotiated with me. Imagine that 250 Swiss francs is what I was asking for. She was like, "Oh, that's a bit more than I wanted to spend." Blah blah blah. So she said like she was thinking about 200. So we agreed on 222 because it's also a special number. And then I think I don't remember. It's maybe 2 or 3 years later when I became really serious about selling my art. The next artwork she bought was 3,000, right? From 222 to 3,000. And then later on, she bought a painting for 5,200, and that's Swiss francs, which is like 5,200 Swiss francs, probably like 6,000 USD. So she bought one for 5,200. The next month, she bought one for 6,800. Like, so she spent in 2 months over 10K, right? And
Okay.
she started with 222.
All right. So I have a few questions. I want to break this
Mm-hmm.
down for the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the first year that she bought the first piece from you? What's her name, by the way? Or you can make up a name if you want, but just
Monica is her name.
okay.
Yeah.
So, when did Monica buy her first piece from you?
I think I think it was 2018.
Okay, 2018, and it was like 222 Swiss francs.
Yeah,
All right, we'll just say
exactly.
222.
Hmm.
Okay, and then when did she buy her second piece? And you said it was for 3,000.
Yeah, that was in 2020,
Okay, so two
2 years
years
later.
later.
Yeah.
Okay, and then after that, what was the next one after that?
I think that's not, I'm not 100% sure. It's either 1 year later or 2 years later. So either it's
Okay, we'll just
2021 or
say
2022.
20. All right, we're just going to say 2022. It doesn't really
Okay.
matter because and so how much was that she bought the third time she bought from you? How much
So
did
the
she spend?
third, she bought two in 2 months, right? So there was 5,200 in 1 month. There was actually a commission, but then when she picked up the commission, she saw another one which she really loved, which was even more expensive. So in the next month, she bought that for 6,800 Swiss francs.
Okay, so this is amazing. So this is what I want to break down. In 2018, you weren't even a full-time artist yet. You had a full-time job, and I know this because I've known you for 5, 6 years now.
Mhm.
And you were how old were you in 2018?
Oh, wait, I'm 30 now, so 2020, I was like 25, 23, roughly. Yeah,
Oh my
23.
god, so you were the age that my son is.
Hmm.
23 is so I mean, you were just a baby. Say, you were just a baby in 2018, and so you sold this painting to Monica. How did Monica find your art? Because as long as I've known you, you've never had a website, so how did she find you? That's number 1. How did she find you?
So yeah, that actually goes into one of my things of how I find art collectors and keep them, right? So I known her from, it's like how do you say it? You could say a mastermind. So it's like one of my mentors basically. Like I came from a very tough childhood, so I was always looking for how can I change me? Like how can I think better? How can I feel better? Because like life was quite tough for me for a while. So I found this mentor. She studied in India for 5 years. She was quite spiritual, and I loved everything she did. So I signed up. Like I spent, I think back then she was quite cheap in comparison to later. So I think I spent between 3,000 to 5,000 for, I believe it was a 3 months coaching thing, and it was with live events. And obviously, I wasn't the only one. So she was one of these people, and we were, I think, one of the first people that joined that the coaching from my mentor. And so that's where I started building the relationship with her. And we stayed in contact, right? Because she had a community on Facebook. So we stayed in contact in Facebook. And when I started selling art, I started reaching out to the people that I know. That was the first thing that I did, right? First, I reached out to the people that I know. And she was one of them. And she actually happened to also love art.
Okay. So there for those of you listening that are what I like to call keyboard warriors, you never want to leave your home and you know who you know who you are. Even if you're introverted. Look, I'm married to a very introverted artist, but he learned at a very young age he had to get out of his comfort zone and talk to people if he was ever going to be successful. He's still he never changed. He's still introverted, but he still pushes himself out to talk to people because that's what it takes. So, unless you have thousands of dollars to spend on online advertising, you have to meet people in person. So, Oliver joined this group, the
Mm-hmm.
leader of a group. He spent money
Mm-hmm.
and to be a member of this group, met the lady who got to know the lady who led the group. And that's what led to this first sale, which then what led to the second sale? Monica bought another piece from you 2 years later. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you were no longer in her group 2 years later, right?
No, that's actually, I worked for her for a while. So I kept
Okay.
seeing these people, but that's when I quit. Yeah. So she bought the painting after I quit. So, yeah.
Okay. So, um, how do you keep in touch with her? That's what I'm getting
Hmm.
at. This
Hmm.
is what I'm getting at.
Hmm.
Once somebody buys from you, like I mentioned earlier, I keep a spreadsheet because
Hmm.
it's the and I've tried all kinds of online apps and things to contact
Hmm.
what do they call them? CRM, contact relation management things. And I still always go back to like a Google spreadsheet because that's the only thing that my little brain can like understand. But
Hmm.
whatever works for you to keep track of people. But Oliver, how do you reach out to people that you haven't heard from in a while? Let's say a year or two's gone by. What's your method of reaching out to somebody who's bought from you before?
Hmm. Yeah, so there are different ways I'm doing it. Like I can share the story, like how it happened with her 2 years later. Um, I think it was just like through Facebook actually, because I was very active on Facebook. I mean, Facebook like still works today pretty well. And so I've been posting, especially in 2020, when I became more serious about my art and started selling more and more. That's when I started really like I started posting quite a lot, and I just reached out to tons of people, literally everyone that I know. You know, not being shy, not holding myself back. Because I think this is the worst thing. Is like if we're like, but I don't want to bother people. I'm afraid of what they say. Like the inner critic is like stopping us from reaching out to people. But that was the 2020 was when I was so serious about quitting my job because there was nothing else in my mind than quitting that job. It became a must. So of course, like just reaching out to people it was so much nicer than being stuck in the job, right? So that was
Yeah.
the thing for me. So I just reached out to every single, like every person I knew or didn't know, people that follow me on Facebook, and that's it. I just initiated contact and let me think how exactly she bought it. Somehow, I think I told people or showed them my artworks, and she then came actually to me to look at some of the artworks, and one of them she really really loved,
So
and
she
when
came to your physical location.
yes, yeah.
Okay. But you originally reached out to her like through a
Well,
messenger app.
yeah, yeah. I was posting a lot. I mean, she saw my art. She followed me, right? So she saw the progress, and she's like, she found it really cool how I progressed and what are the new artworks that I painted, right? So, but I 100% like I could. I would never be able to make a living from art if I just wait for people to reach out to me. Right? If I would
Yeah.
just post and wait for
Yeah.
people to reach out to me, no, I would not be able to make a
Uh,
living.
Look, I have an art gallery in San Clemente, California. It's a beautiful little space. I have a parking lot, which most businesses here in town don't. So I'm really
Hmm.
lucky. And if I relied on people just walking in, I would have been
Hmm.
out of business 10 years ago. I'm not kidding. It's like we have to actively send out newsletters, contact artists, have live
Hmm.
art shows. And I noticed that every time Drew goes on I'm going to use the word luxury here kind of loosely, a luxury um, educational vacation. For example, he did a cruise in Croatia 8 years ago. I couldn't go because we had two kids at home. But Drew went. It was a professional speaker on the cruise named Nassim Harriman. All the people on it was a very intimate cruise, only like 38 people. But it was a luxury yacht. And everybody there that attended had money,
Hmm.
right? And they all also had in common a love for ancient cultures, which Drew loves. And a lot of his art, his sacred geometry art, is about that, right? So they went and visited the one of the world's largest pyramids, which is in Bosnia, that most people nobody even
Oh.
knows about. And they went inside the pyramid. Well, what came from that was a painting commission from a fellow cruiser that Drew got to know really well by being with him on the yacht for 7 days. And that one commission paid double the price that the cruise cost us.
Wow.
And
Exactly.
and then we went to Egypt a year later, and we did with the same group of people, but it was a bigger group. And same thing, I got several art buyers out of that because we were in Egypt with them for 2 weeks. and you get to know people really well. Now, I'm not saying, now I understand a lot of people can't go out and do this stuff. Look, these are, these were bucket list trips for us, but you can join local groups. You can join Toastmasters. You can join, oh my gosh, there's so many groups out there.
Hmm.
Get on eventbrite.com and look for live events that you can attend where people, if your art is about, let's say your art is all about local landscapes, join a group of people that love that sort of thing, or go on a local tour, or volunteer to lead a tour of like something local, and that's how you meet people. And then
Yeah.
you just have to get out and meet people who are into the same thing that you're into, that is tied into your art. That's
Yeah.
one way to do it. Having art
Yeah.
shows, art exhibits. I mean, I talk about that all the time. I encourage new artists to do this. So I want to address this question
Hmm.
Kathy Strauss asked. And hi, Kathy. Good to see you on the live here. I got to enjoy a smoothie in live person with Kathy and her business partner Jillian last week in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So her question is, hey there, guys. So the big question would be how and where to start your prices to keep and collect buyers without giving your art away.
Hmm.
So if you are an artist and you're not sure what to price your art at, let's say you're starting out, or the prices you have your art set at just isn't working for whatever reason, um, I recommend there's a couple different ways to do it. Like, look for a middle of the road standard pricing. Now I know that, so I'll give you a rough number. If you're an oil painter, I would say charge by the square inch. If you're new without much of a following, start at $4 to $6 a square inch in general, right? You can play around with those numbers a little bit, but that's in general. If you're doing acrylics, or like in Drew's case, he uses pasta paint pens, and that gets a not as much as oil painting. You would go lower. You would say maybe $2 to $4 a square inch to start. And once you start making sales and you get momentum and you get more confidence and you start building your collector base, then raise your prices. And what we do with Drew is we raise his prices every January. And sometimes in the middle of the year also, like we just recently, are the company that does our printing and framing for us, they just bumped our prices up by 10%. So now I got to go on Drew's website and raise all his prices, which I haven't done yet, but I need to do that. So, as inflation and the cost of things go up, you have to raise your prices as well.
Yeah.
But just
Yeah.
get started with something that feels
Hmm.
comfortable. And I hope that helps. In my book, I have a whole chapter in my book, Art, Money, Success, that's dedicated to that topic. Let's see. Brett Deely asked, when you ship paintings, do you buy third party shipping insurance? Um, that's a whole nother can of worms to open. If I'm shipping a very expensive painting, like 5,000 or more, I have a crate built and I hire a company that ships art. It's expensive, but it's the safest way to do it. Oliver, have you had to do a lot of shipping outside of when you were in Switzerland, or where you are now in
Yeah.
Bulgaria?
Yes, yes, all over the world, right? So I actually did one as well with this how do you call it, the crate thing? You know, the wooden thing that's like
Mhm.
super secure. They build it, and I also with the very expensive painting, I actually got the company to do that and ship it, and I think they also insured it, but it was super expensive. It was like I think it was $1,000, $2,000, something like that.
Yeah.
So this was for the very expensive one. But then I wanted to kind of save and just did everything myself. I just made sure that it's packed really well. And I personally saved on the insurance. It's not the best way. It was a bit risky, so I was living like risky. And I actually one of my art just one. So I was very lucky. One got lost. It was a commission for like a very important buyer, and but I was creative, and I'm like I reached out to him and said like I do another one, I make it even better. So I lost a little bit money, but yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Well, yeah, I always insure
yeah,
everything. That's if it If it's over like $1,000, I insure it. I
It
insure
makes sense. Yeah.
whatever I don't want to end up paying for because shipping
Yeah.
companies lose things and destroy things sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily's question. I'm long overdue to raise my prices. I've been afraid to because my clients are struggling and I don't want to put a strain on them. So, Emily, um, you're assuming your clients are struggling. Um, but why
Yeah.
should you struggle? Maybe you need new clients.
Yeah.
And so you don't, I don't know how to answer this in an eloquent way, but I'll just be blunt because I'm a Taurus and that's how I am. Everybody's struggling in some way or another. You have to look out for yourself. You're not a charity, and you're not a charity. You're not a you're you're a professional business.
Yeah.
Professional business doesn't worry about people struggling. When I walk into Nordstrom and I need an outfit for something, I don't say, "Hey, I didn't sell much art this month. Can you give this to me for half price?" I mean, they'll laugh at me. So
Yeah.
the thing is, sometimes if you already have a following and you're already selling art, sometimes when you raise your prices, you get new people with more money. That's what's happening with us with Drew. The fact that I just got a company to sign off on $75,000 project that's going to take Drew 2 months. Um, I realized we just hit another level.
Hmm.
And some of that comes from a lot of experience of Drew being a long time experienced artist. And then some of it is a lot of it is our confidence level of saying, you know what? We're at a higher level now. We don't have to charge $5,000. We can charge 75,000 because that's the value to this company. And this is a giant company, by the way. Now, granted, if it was a small local business, they would never pay 75 grand. They wouldn't be able to. But I know this client, and if Drew said no, they'd have to go to an advertising agency and hire them. And the advertising agency is going to charge them about 250,000 for the same thing, and then hire a guy like Drew to do the work. So I just know how these commercial businesses work, the really big ones. And so that knowledge is power.
Yeah. Can
Okay,
I also
let's
say
see.
quickly
Mhm.
something to it? I wanted to say just the same, like similar to you, like assuming, right? We need to be careful that we don't project our own limitations onto others, especially like when we are selling art, because we are feeling like we are the artists, we need money, we want to sell art, and these are the people with the money, or sometimes like we are almost like scared that they don't have money, but it's most of the time our projection. And I stopped assuming because I realized that some people that bought my art, I had no idea that they have money. I actually thought they don't have money, right? But I made it a rule to reach out to people, to connect with people, to ask people, no matter what my mind is thinking. And the person that bought the painting for 24,000, I thought she has no money, literally, right? She had no signs. Her house where she was living didn't look like it's she's wealthy, she has money. There were no signs for me that she has money. I thought she has no money, but I was wrong, right? So yeah, we need to be careful not to assume, right? So
Well, the mistake that a lot of people make, and I used to make this mistake until I learned from one of my mentors,
mhm.
is that we tend to put our own financial limitations on
Yeah,
our customers.
exactly. Yeah.
And while my limit for buying art might be $500, and that's actually true because I
Hmm.
have bought artist art from some of my I bought art from some of the artists that I coach, and now that I think about it, my limit's about $500.
Hmm.
Um, but that's because I'm married to an artist and have art everywhere, and so I'm not going to spend. But I think if I fell in love with something and couldn't live without it, and it was 10,000, I would spend that. But what I realized I was doing a long time ago when I was new to selling art is that because my limit's 500, I thought everybody's limit was
Mm,
500. And what I found
exactly.
out is that's wrong. That's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
inaccurate. You have to stop putting your own personal limits on your customers.
Yeah.
So here, Emily said, I have a Discord server for my art. So all my clients are in one place, no competition, and I can make announcements to them directly and speak to them daily. Okay, Emily, I want you to know you are sitting on a gold mine. You are sitting on a gold mine. You absolutely can raise your prices. And I guarantee if you raise your prices by 15 or 20% right now today, nobody will notice, nobody will complain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Charlene said she sees both new artists and long term established artists charging $1 to $2 a square inch for oil paintings. Well, they are missing out. So that's
Mm.
too bad for them. An established oil painter should be charging a minimum of $6 a square inch minimum. Okay. Scott Rhodes said, I started doing outdoor and craft events. Is this a smart way to go? I think anything that has you meeting people and talking to them about your art and collecting their information so you can stay in touch with them, either through a newsletter or a Discord or social media or whatever, it's a good way to go. Yes. What do you think, Oliver?
Absolutely. I actually have I made a Facebook group, the Hoyas Art Collectors group. So where I have them in there and I can connect with them and share something. Yeah.
Okay, so Emily weighed in again and she said, excellent advice. I have a lot of money hangups. So I want to say we all have money hangups. I I have come a long way. Money is a construct, money is an energy. It's a flow of energy, right? And if you can start to understand that if you can master your money mindset, you will make 10 times the amount of money you're making now. Once you believe that, you will start working on that mindset. It's incredible how far I've come. um Drew and I, just 10 years ago had no money in the bank, and we were selling art. We were doing it full time, but we didn't have any money in the bank. We had almost no retirement savings, and we were in debt. Now our house is like two more payments and our house is paid off. We have zero debt and we have a lot of money in the bank. And the money keeps flowing. It's almost like somebody turned on a water faucet.
Hmm.
And yet I hear a lot of people complaining that the economy's bad and people aren't buying art. And I'm like, well, I don't know. You're living in a different timeline than me, because I think once I got my mind to the magic is once you get your mind to a certain place with money, then you start taking different actions, and those actions are the magic wand. The mindset leads to the actions. It's not the mindset by itself that's the magic wand. It's the action you take and the way you behave and the way you speak and the way you communicate in written form and the way you invest in yourself. So I'm gonna put a little plug into our Art Money Success Mastermind group, because the people that have been in our mastermind group, the members, and a lot of them are here right now. And if you're listening and you have something to share in the chat, please do. But a lot of our members are seeing immense change in the way they handle money, think about money, and are making sales. Now, these things don't happen overnight. They take training the brain. And that's what Oliver and I do in the mastermind group constantly. We meet every Monday. We're training our brain for success. And also Oliver once a month teaches a manifestation live session for our mastermind members. And that is all getting into your mindset, the energy you have around money, where your hangups come from. Once you can identify where the hangups come from, then you can resolve them. It's like figuring out where a pain in your side is coming from. And when you realize, oh, that's just this muscle over here. And if I work that muscle, the pain will go away. It's the same thing. You have to become aware of what's causing it, and then you can fix it. And then you get the results. Then you're free. So
Absolutely.
Charlene said, I charge $5 to $10 a square inch. But when I'm at a show with those other low prices, I wonder if it hurts my sales. Well, it hurts your sales if you act the same way as the other artists, you speak the same way as the other artists, and you present the same way. So you'll be able to get more money than the other artists if you are more professional, more friendly and warm and welcoming, and you have better stories about yourself and your art. Stories sell. If your stories have an emotional connection, they sell. And if you're warm and engaging, and you can learn how to do all this, you can be introverted and be warm and engaging. You can learn how to do it. So, yes, you can charge more. So, there are many times Drew will give my husband Drew will give a price quote. Just recently, there's a new restaurant opening up in Laguna Beach. There were other artists that were willing to, they wanted a giant painting as a mural. There were other artists willing to do it for like $3,000. We quoted 15 grand. We got the job. Why? Because we showed the client examples of other things Drew did for other similar type restaurants and stores. We talked about we told them what the process was. We got them excited about their vision, not Drew's vision, but their vision for the art. And we convinced them that Drew could not only do it the way they wanted it done, but also he could hit the deadline for having it done for their grand opening. That
Mm-hmm.
made the difference. This owner did not have time to take a chance on an artist that was a lot cheaper, but didn't have examples of other success stories that they've done, wasn't as articulate professionally, and wasn't confident.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So I want to go back to our promise at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of this, where we were going to tell people how to get art collectors and how to keep them for life. So, first of all, though, Oliver, I want
Mm-hmm.
to take a second and say hi to my good buddy, Paul Bond. He just left a comment. Hello from Costa Rica. Paul and I are really good friends, and he used to live real close to me. I spent a lot of time with him and his wife Donna, and they relocated to Costa Rica a few years ago, and they live in the jungle now. And it's just so awesome to see you here, Paul. But Oliver, going back
Mm-hmm.
to how to get collectors. Now, for Drew and I, the way we get collectors is doing live events. Going back to the very beginning in 1998, we did our first big art show and we invited the entire town to it. And that's how we started building a list of collectors. And then when social media came around, we started doing it through Facebook and Instagram, and we continue to do live events and social media. And now we spend between $2,000 and $3,000 a month on online advertising to get new people, and that's working for us. Oliver, what works for you?
Yeah, so for me, what works really well is like the first time I met collectors without even knowing is through following what I'm interested in, which was the personal growth events, working on myself. And my art is actually like a representation of my inner journey, the growth that I experienced. The stories are exactly about these things, right? All about personal growth, spirituality. So going to these events, of course, is like I meet lots of my ideal customers. And another way, like I also wanted to say, like I tested it out. I think it's possible to sell your art only through social media without going to event. Even though I don't think if it's that it's the best way, because it can get very lonely and boring. Which was actually 2020 was for me just selling online, right?
Yeah.
And I've met, but I've done the same thing that I've done live, just on Facebook. So I joined Facebook groups, or even I paid for communities. Sometimes not even that much. I paid for one community 500, and then they had a monthly fee if you wanted to continue after 2 months, I believe, for like $50. Right, that's completely fine. There are lots of people, and since I was really interested in that thing, I connected to these people, and I did the same thing, just like connecting to people. So I didn't meet them live because they were all around the world, but I met them on Zoom. So that's how I met our collectors. And I think there might be a misconception, or I heard this misconception, that art collectors are these people that walk around planet Earth that, they're looking for art to buy, right? They're like, I want art. And then you just need to find these people and they will buy your art. But for me, it was like very different. For me, it's like these are real people that they're not necessarily art collectors, but they become my art collectors because they connect to me as the artist. And I make the time to connect to them, right? Either live or through Zoom. And we build a relationship, and we're both interested in the same kind of things, especially like the spiritual personal growth part, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I met a lot of my collectors. Yeah.
Well, and I want to let everybody know that's listening. I put a link in the comments to our mastermind, and in our mastermind, Oliver has an in-depth course on how he sells on social media. And I
Mhm.
also offer to our mastermind members, my course, how to make money selling art at exhibits, exhibiting your
Mhm.
art, and how to do it outside of art galleries. Do it
Mhm.
on your own so you keep more of the money. Um, so check the link and check it out, and you'll get all the details if you click on that link I put in the comments. And I want to, we got a couple minutes left, so there's a few more things I want to hit. And let's see. One thing I want to, Rusty asked, what do you think about art selling websites like art storefronts? Well, I'll tell you what I think about art storefronts. I actually really love one of the main spokespersons for that. He's a great guy. I've talked to him. A few years ago, they offered me money to promote them to my audience. I have a pretty large artist audience. I don't promote anything that isn't good for you. This is why so many people trust me. And I will never break that trust. So I did my homework. I contacted a bunch of artists that do have art storefronts, and a couple of them are happy with it. Most of them, I'd say 8 out of 10, are very unhappy with it. And it's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And look, if you're going to invest that much money, don't invest it there. Well, do your homework. That's what I'm going to say. You come to your own conclusion. Contact a minimum of 10 artists who have art storefronts, and ask them.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Can
going to say. But
I
I
also
decided not to promote it, even though it would have made me several $1,000s a month. By the way, I gave that up because my reputation with you all is more important than money.
great. Yeah. Yeah. I also quickly about that. I think it's almost like for some it might work, but I believe it's almost like selling the dream. Just have a beautiful website. We create this amazing website, and it sells the dream that your art is going to sell. But I never experienced, for maybe there are some artists out there, but most of the time, like having a website is not gonna do the sales. Like, how do you
Yeah.
get people on the website, right? So that's why I think it's just confusing for a lot of artists, right? I think for most artists that shouldn't even be the focus. To have like this
Well,
perfect website. Yeah.
I agree. However, Drew's website, once we got it dialed in with Shopify, which by the way, we did that just a few years ago, we went from 3,000 a month in sales on his website to 15 to 20,000 a month. So we consistently do 15 to 18,000 a month every month in sales on just his website, thanks to the way we have it set up with Shopify, which, by the way, I'm bringing my Shopify expert to our mastermind. um, in a couple weeks, and he's going to share all the details on how we get the sales. I also do advertising, or we do advertising, and we invest money in advertising, and we invest between 2 and 3 thousand a month, and that's what brings us between 15 and 20,000 a month in sales. And in the month of December, sometimes we'll do 30,000 a month on our Shopify website sales. So it really depends on what you're doing. If you're selling print as a business model, you should have a good website that has really good functions and features that make it easy for you to track where your sales are coming from. That's what I love about Shopify. Um,
Can I ask
so
quickly,
yeah,
Maria? So like, but yeah, you have a great website, but you get people on the website with ads, right? Because like if you don't get people on the website, it's not just gonna sell out of nothing, right? So that was kind of the thinking.
yes,
Yeah,
you have to get
exactly.
people there.
Yeah.
And the advertising was a game changer for us, but it was scary because you're like, you don't know if it's going to work. And it takes some time to figure it out. Our advertising, so last year, this same month last year, our ads got a 3% rate of, let's see, ROI, return on investment. This this year it's 7%. So we've more than doubled our return on investment because we finally figured out how to do ads. And Drew's now in charge. We had some other guy doing it. And I mean, he did the best job he could, but for whatever reason, it wasn't getting the results. Now, when Drew's in charge of the ads, we get the results. We, like when he's in charge of like the creative of the ads. So,
So
our
it's
girl
like,
Debbie Schaefer asked about our mastermind group, and I put a link in there. Um, and our mastermind group, we meet live once a week and additional times during the month. I bring experts. So this month, I'm bringing an expert master oil painter. We're bringing my Shopify expert, and in the sometime soon, I've got other experts coming, but every month we try to bring an expert to our mastermind group. It's a private group. Everything we talk about is selling art, making art, and we also talk about the creative process, and we share our scripts. So one of our mastermind members, as an example, she's been using Oliver's course to sell art through Facebook, and she's sometimes not figuring out how to move the conversation forward to get somebody to buy. So she'll share with us the actual screenshots of what she's writing to them. And then Oliver and I help her fine tune word for word what she should say to get the potential buyer to stay in the conversation. So we share scripts, we customize the script. When you ask for help in the mastermind, we're right there helping you. So, if you want to make more money with your art, if you want to deal with sales issues, money mindset issues, how to price your art, all the things that have to do with selling art, our mastermind is a great investment. The people who stay in the group, especially beyond 3 months, are the ones that really see success, because success doesn't happen overnight. I'm sorry, we don't have a magic wand. You have to be consistent. You have to change the way you do things, and you have to practice, practice, practice. And Oliver, you have anything to add to that?
no, that's exactly it. It's like it's like painting. You're practicing painting, right? You get better over time. So it's the same thing with learning business marketing, and we share everything in the mastermind. And you just need to, listen to these things, start implementing things step by step, and you will get better over time. And at one point, suddenly, you're making more and more money because you got better in these things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Joshua, hi Joshua. I've known Joshua for years. Joshua asked, should I have a simple art blog or a monthly paid site? So if you're asking if you should charge people, if you have a raving fan base, you could possibly make that happen. Or if you have something of great value to offer every month, that a paid membership would be great. You have to just give a lot of value, and you have to reach a lot of people to keep that going. And
Mhm.
that's a whole business model. That's a monthly paid site is a full-time job right there. So you have to ask yourself if you are willing to start a whole new business, because that's kind of what that is. Kathy asked, how do you promote the website? So Kathy, you are starting. So what I know about Kathy is, because she's a member of our mastermind, she's opening a new art gallery in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It opens real soon, and I'm really excited for that, Kathy. So the way you can advertise and promote your website, first of all, is through social media. Instagram, Facebook, and you need to post 1 to 3 times a day, preferably 3 times a day. And you can post about, you can show behind the scenes of you getting ready for this grand opening. You can show some of the art that's going to be exhibited. You can talk about the art, tell the stories of the art. But if you want to take it to another level, you have to do a little bit of paid advertising. And I think Facebook and Instagram, and you can target, since you are a local business, you target people in the local area. That would be how you do it. But you have to experiment with advertising. It doesn't work great right away. It's there's quite the learning curve.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see. Shelly asked, Sophist versus Etsy. I don't know what Sophist is. Is that a website, or did you mean to write Shopify?
Shopify.
I don't know what Sophist is. I think you meant to write Shopify. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Shopify versus Etsy, well, Etsy has its pros and cons. If you don't want to manage your own website, Etsy's a great way to go, especially if you're new, out there, new to selling your art. And Emily said, I'm so bad at marketing and advertising. Okay, Emily, no, you're not.
It's a
No,
limiting
you're
belief.
not. That is a limiting belief. Join our mastermind, Emily, and we will bust that. We will
Mhm.
bust it so hard that when we're done with you, you'll come out and you'll say, gosh, I am really good at marketing.
Yeah.
As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I want you to start practicing right now. I want you to say, you know what? I'm learning how to market.
Yeah.
Emily, you're already way ahead of most people. You've got a Discord group that buys from you. You're actually very good at marketing on Discord. And I want you to pat yourself on the back for that right now. Shelly says, I'm in. All right, Shelly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, we are 2 minutes past the hour. I want to thank you all for sticking with us this long. I think this is the biggest audience we've had
Oh,
live,
wow.
Oliver. And I want to invite you all, whoever's listening to the replay, to hit the link in the description and check out our mastermind. It really is an amazing group. And Oliver and I run it, and we just love to help artists succeed, because that's what we're here for. That's my
Yes.
purpose
Yeah.
in life, is to help people. Oliver, and I
Yeah.
know that, would you say that's your purpose in life also?
Actually, yes, because that's been the thing that I enjoyed the most since ever. Like even when I started, when I didn't sell out nothing, I always wanted to share what I learned. So it's like I just have to do it. Basically, that's why I'm sharing so much. So yeah.
And that's what I love about you, because you do it with such love in your heart, and I do too. I do too. I love artists. Nothing makes me more angry than an artist being taken advantage of, and that's why I like to empower artists. That's what drives me in life. So thank
Yeah.
you all for being here, and with that, we are going to end this beautiful live stream, and we will see you all next time. Love ya, mean
Bye
it.
bye.
Love ya, mean it. Bye.
Bye bye.